here at your Sydney Swans.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. You're joined as always by the boys from Sydney. I'm Chris and this is Swans superfan Sam.
That's right, you lucky loyal Swans fans. In this episode, we're going to be chatting about the strange game, but obviously great game on Friday night. And remember, if you like what you hear, please give us a follow. All right, let's kick things off with a quick game recap.
Right, last Friday night in front of 46,000 fans at Optus Stadium in Perth, our Sydney Swans defeated the Freo Dockers by 48 points with a final score of 13-9-87 to 4-15-39. All right, straight over to you, Sam. You were at the game in Perth. Mate, what was it like? What was the emotion? I know we all kicked off with the Cam McCarthy tribute with him losing his life the day before. Pretty emotional it seemed like, but how did the crowd feel? How was the atmosphere there?
Look, I think the tribute was really nice. Obviously, it was sort of totally unexpected not going in, but earlier that day hearing that was, very sad. RIP Cam McKenzie and, I guess all thoughts are with anyone affected by that. It hits close to home when this happens to, football players or I guess, big figures, within society. So very sad. So the tribute was very beautiful. It was the atmosphere, I guess it was a bit off in a sense, which could explain, as I mentioned, it was a strange game. I thought Freo actually played really well. If they were able to kick straight, it would have been a lot closer game, and I think the atmosphere would have been up. But it was pretty hard for the fans to get going when there was just so many behinds. I mean, they kind of took it well as all the behinds. But yeah, in a sense, I felt like, we played pretty well, but also not to our peak. The first and third quarters, we almost controlled the scoring shots in a sense, or they were also inaccurate, but they had periods of dominance in those games. And then the second and fourth, we just controlled the game. And even at parts of the first and third, we controlled it. So, I'd say that's my impressions.
Yeah, I mean, that's about bang on. I think if you're going to kick one goal in half a game of football, then you're not expected to win that game, not care who you play against, right? So it was just, I agree with you. I actually felt that the game was way more competitive in a lot of places than the scoreline shows, but their inaccuracies was just brutal. Let me run through a couple of stats just to give you a bit of colour. So we had ourselves efficiency inside 50. The Dockers won. So they had more scoring shots inside 50 than we did, which is not too much of a surprise. It seemed to go in there regularly, and they actually had a shot at goal. They just couldn't for the life of them find the middle of the goalpost. Not the goal. Well, they hit the goalpost a couple of times. That's fair. But it's just... Our inside 50s, we were up, but they had way more efficiency. They had more shots at goal. So it was all happening. It was all fine for the Dockers, just couldn't get it done. And the control of the game, as you mentioned there, plus 59 kicks for the Swannies and plus 51 handballs for the Dockers. So two totally different styles of football being played out. And as you said there, Sam, I think it's just we controlled the game a bit better, and then they kind of walked into our pressure by kind of using the ball with their hands. What did you think?
Yeah, look, it reminded me of the game we won. I think it was the back end of 22. And there was all the talk that we hadn't won in Optus for quite a while. And we went over there and we did that sort of, chip kick mark sort of game and just moved it up slowly and, just played the right kind of tempo at the right times, where we were on the field. I guess just kind of got up the field with, minimal pressure and then, got it in. So it was good, I think. And then Freo on the reverse side, their transition game looked really good. When they were going, again, just couldn't convert.
Yep. Like put some good pressure on the backs. I did notice, but our guys were just a little bit sharper, a little bit more cohesive. They had the back line, Rampy, Blakey. They had a real good synergy, just rolling in between each other. Florent was amazing, just making sure he was in the support and getting the ball up. So I think although the Dockers played well, again, I just feel that they kind of played into our pressure. And so when they kind of played the ball, got up forward, had to take that 50-50 kick on. We got the ball to ground. We basketballed it off the floor a couple of times and then got going. But one thing that was pretty clear during the whole game that just did my head in, and I know everyone at home's head in, do the umpires need a reminder of what 15 meters looks like? Because it was just going off. There was 30-meter kicks being called for not 15. And everyone at home just staring at the screen going, hang on, it feels very one-sided. Was it like that at the game?
Look, a little bit, but I mean, it was a Freo dominant crowd, so they probably didn't go up in arms as much. There was a good Swans showing there, as there always is, everywhere we go, but it was it was noticeable from times. It was like, how is that not 15? I was sitting next to my mate Trent, an Essendon fan. Some of the calls, he was like, what is going on? What I noticed more, though, was how many holding the balls there were both ways.
I know.
In the first half specifically, first quarter, I couldn't believe it. They were paying it for pretty much everything. And they paid it consistently at least, so you can't really complain a whole lot. There was one, I think, that... did we get away with it or not? I can't remember. No, we didn't get away with it. Trent thought it shouldn't have been, but I thought it should have been. But yeah, it was again just a bit strange.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I'm starting to feel you got more umpires out there on the ground these days, right? And I'm kind of feeling that every now and then there's a pocket of the ground that just plays something obscurely and then they just stick to it. And you know what? It's best to play consistently. Cool. Make the call, be consistent with it. That's all we ask, really. You can't be changing the rules halfway through a game. But then when you've got 4 umpires running around and every one of them's doing their own little pocket and having different interpretation of things, it just starts doing everyone head in. So, I mean, this is not the complain about an umpire podcast, but it kind of felt just really inconsistent this week. And I think that's why it kind of made so much, it just became so influential in the game. It felt like, but in the end, the Dockers couldn't kick straight, so it didn't really matter. That's at the end of the day, the Dockers couldn't kick straight. That was the game, right?
Yeah.
That's basically.
I think on that, I think, as much as, it can be consistent within a game, it's still got to be consistent within a season or, even around. And, that's sort of the tricky thing. So, look, hopefully they can make umpires full-time employees and that should help. I think that would go a long way.
Yeah. At least the pressure on them will be kind of somewhat acceptable, because it's just asking literally amateur guys to play performance, and it's a bit mean. Yeah. But hey, we had some crackers plays. Like Grundy had an absolute field day. It was easy going for him. I think we won the hitouts by +28. He got 33 against Jackson's 12. It was just really easy for him. It didn't seem like he was breaking a sweat. He's just continuing on this mad form.
Yeah, look, he's such a good pickup. It didn't feel like we won the clearances though. Or not. No. Well, we may have won them, but not. Let me have a look. I think Freo won them.
By 1 or 2 or something. I think. Yeah,
by 1. So it was very, very close. But I think Sarong had a big impact, specifically in the stoppages, especially early on. So it didn't feel like we were dominant, but Grundy clearly was dominant.
Are you talking about Swans fan Sarong, who grew up as a Swans fan, and then we didn't pick him up for Dill Stevens? That guy.
Oh gosh,
he's all right, eh? That's one we missed. That is for all the great things that our recruiting has nailed down. That is the one glaring one. But hey, you can't nail them all, right?
That's
so
probably why
we've got a pretty good team.
We don't do a lot of first round picks in a sense, Well, it's the academy sort of drafts and things like that. I guess we haven't had a whole lot of first round picks, and maybe that's why, because I think we find some diamonds in the rough. Like if you look at the list right now, you've got Lloyd rookie, Warner was about pick 40, Juzzy was second round or third round, Cunningham rookie, Jordan
Rampy rookie.
He listed, but kind of traded, but he was rookie. Won't touch on Francis. Rowbottom was I guess somewhere, like in the second round probably. There's Wicks rookie, Papley rookie. There's a lot of players that we pick up from rookie list or in sort of different ways. So maybe that's why we don't get a whole lot of first rounders or top ends.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good summary, I think. And I think we'll happily take that trade. I think we're doing all right here. Mate, speaking of one of those players, Jordan, JJ, having a fantastic career since the day he turned up. Found himself in a new kind of position, taking that Ryan Clark tagger role of just sitting on blokes. And as it turns out, he's a defensive masterclass. And he's just nailing people down. So Whitfield last week, we went over the stats last week of how he dominated Whitfield. And in this week, he was up against Jordan Clark. Against Jordan Clark, so throughout the season, for this season, Jordan Clark averaged 25 disposals, 18 of them uncontested. So that's super easy footy, get himself touches all the time. This week, he only had 16 touches with 6 of them being uncontested. So basically, Jordan Clark was forced to go out there and go get his own football, and he didn't do so well with doing that. And only 2 marks for the week, which is his lowest of the entire year. So JJ is just taking scalps and running out of room to keep those scalps. Great little pickup, mate. How can we were worried about, we had too many wingers almost on the field. We were worried about where we're going to place all these quality wingers. And Dill Stevens left and we filled him up with James Jordan. He's been an amazing pickup. We got a tagger role for the rest of the year and something that not too many teams have, eh?
Yeah, look, and I think what makes him more valuable is that he doesn't have to tag. He's doing a great job doing it, but it's probably the point of difference, I guess, when you look at JJ and Ryan Clark, is that if Ryan Clark wasn't tagging, what was he doing in a sense? And it makes it even weirder that we're playing JJ in this role and we didn't play Ryan Clark in that role when he did play last season. But, if he doesn't have anyone to tag, or, if they release the tag, he still could be, you could put him on a halfback, you could put him on the wing, you could put him in the middle, you could put him up forward. He has that versatility. He's that kind of player that really is that utility style. So it's really good to have that flexibility, and it also creates a little bit of unpredictability. Because if Ryan Clark was in the team in back end of 2022, he was tagging. If JJ's in the team, maybe he's not going to be,
He's
maybe
just on the wing. Yeah.
And, or maybe they could switch it. They could see how the other team's going in the first 10 minutes and, who's hot and who's not, and put him on there and throw them off in game as well without, not doing anything. So yeah, I think that's where he adds a lot of value, outside of the tagging too.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think Ryan Clark was interesting because he'd be in the VFL, get himself 40-something touches. Because his running ability got him to where the ball needed to be, and he's always managed to get his hands on the ball constantly. But then you roll him up the AFL standard, just wasn't quite in that. Well, we don't play that style of game as well. We weren't getting him free license to go chase the ball and be wherever that needed to be. It's a lot faster in the AFL. It's a lot more contested in the AFL. It's a lot stronger in the AFL. So he didn't quite make that transition, but what he had was a strong running ability, could run all day. And that's where he did his damage. Where it seems with James Jordan, he can do his running and he's at AFL quality. So he still, as you said, get his touches and put his positive mark in the game. So, hey, that at the beginning of the season, when we were talking about the new recruits, we're obviously excited about Grundy, obviously excited about Taylor Walker. No, absolutely not that guy. Taylor Adams. But I was particularly excited about James Jordan just because of the position he plays and just, Melbourne seems to just do a good job with those kinds of players. So pretty happy with him. All right, next player, mate. Who else did you see? Who did you see out there and deserves a bit of love about the way they played?
Well, look, Rowy's back tackling. So I thought, as a whole, the team tackled really well. He was, a bit low given his usual standards, around, I guess, probably between the 2 and 4 mark, at least of registered tackles, because obviously more tackles are made in a game, but to count as a stat, it needs to go to some sort of stoppage, be a free kick, or needs to go to a Swans player after the tackle. So I guess at least tackling more effectively, Rowie was with 9. But in general, we won the tackle count as a team. So I think that stood out. It probably, is indicative of Freo's handball count compared to our kick count. That we would have more tackles in a sense, but still good to to win quite comfortably, scoreboard wise and have more tackles.
Yeah, a lot of pressure in the game, right? So that was a big part of our game. It's continuing though. Like there's always a time in the season where you're going to waver off the way that you play. You have to find your feet again. When it comes to the Swans, I know it's still relatively early to win that first trimester of the bloody season, but we're kind of finding that some of the other players are putting on plenty of pressure. So Warner's picking up his his tackle count. Heaney has always managed to get it done as well. Grundy is doing his part, and we're missing guys like Parker as well in the team, which we'll get into a bit later. So yeah, I think Rowie, he always gets it done, but his tackle counts have not been quite up there because I feel not because he's been down, but because everyone else is kind of chipping in, and he's not the only bloke expected to be tackling.
Yeah.
Right, mate. What else? Tell me about Logan. Logan's first goal. That was a wicked goal. That was where Wixie just I was like a bit of a mess going in the forward. Wixie slams it out, like super quick touch by Wixie. That was super tidy. And then in comes Logan, has a millisecond, a Papley style of millisecond, gets it onto his boot and kicks a screamer of a goal. That was the first goal for the game for the Swannies. How loud did the crowd get, or was it just a bit like that? Was it a bit of surprise?
Well, look, I mean, I was sort of near the Swans end, so I think especially in WA, they probably only get one game a year. So whenever the Swans did score, they were very, very loud. So yeah, that first goal, especially because we were under a bit of pressure at the start. So getting that first goal after Freo, I think had a couple of chances before us, was just a bit of a relief in a sense, because from memory, I don't think that that we had that it took a while to get a goal. I think it was probably about, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes in or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a bit of a relief. As much as the goal was fantastic, it was like, it's really good we got that goal. So yeah, I guess that was the feeling on my end, at least. Yeah,
a bit of relief, release that pressure. And then to your point, mate, shout out to the WA Swans crew. They are awesome guys and girls. If you are even just going to go to WA for whatever purpose, and there's a game going on that's not even in WA, they go watch the game at the Empire Bar. And I've been there when it's like a 10 o'clock in the morning game or 11 o'clock in the morning game, because it's like a 1 o'clock game in Sydney. And you're sitting there sinking beers, watching the game on the TV, surrounded by other Swans fans. They've got raffles and stuff. It's freaking mad. It's more organized than any other place in all of Australia for Swans fans. It's just awesome. WA Swans fans. Look, we kicked 11 straight, and it was, I think maybe last year against GWS, we might have kicked 12 straight, if I remember correctly. So this is up there. The crowd's cheers when Hayward kicked the first behind of the game, I think, for the Swanee, I think in the third quarter. How was that? What was that like?
It was probably louder than their goals, to be honest. I just think, in all fairness, fair play to the Freo fans. They were really, given everything that had gone on, and I guess the emotional charge going into that game, and just how it all unfolded, they really were good sports about it from a fan perspective. There wasn't a whole lot of booing. There wasn't anything like that. There was a bit of irony about it, Even when the Dockers kicked a goal, they would sort of ironically cheer a little bit, but not in a way that was rude to the team. I don't know how to explain it, but it was pretty funny, actually. Could have been one of the loudest cheers of the night. I would say it was louder than a lot of the Freo goals.
It came across the TV pretty clear, eh? As soon as he kicks it, the whole crowd's like, It was pretty full on, mate. I think to the point, I think if I was a Dockers fan, and I'm obviously not, but I would give the team an absolute pass on that day before the game started on what their emotions arguably would be. And I think we've spoken about it in this podcast. I don't think they played badly. They just couldn't kick straight. So if I was a Dockers fan, yeah, you take it with a grain of salt, basically. You're like, cool, it is what it is, right? Let it go. Let this one go on to next week kind of situation.
Yeah, look, for sure. I mean, it's not like we're West Coast either. So, that was probably low vote Dockers, actually. Sorry, Dockers. But, I think, we are a quality team this year. And, I guess like if, they could see they weren't taking the chances, they had the emotion and it all sort of just lined up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, mate. Look, we've spoken about the game a fair bit. We've actually not touched on 3 of the core players that we actually felt were probably best on ground. So the Bob medal, our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal, we give 3, 2, 1 points out every single week on the podcast to the 3 best players. This week is 3 points for Heaney, 2 points for Ollie Florent, and 1 point for Chatty. So that's 3 for Heaney, 2 for Ollie, and 1 for Chatty. Mate, Heaney just doing Heaney things. I mean, what more can we say that we haven't said on the podcast already? But I'll pass over to you, given it's your first week on the potty.
He is just a consistent midfielder. Who would have thought, given so many years in the forward line, that he could just come in and do the job of an inside mid so well. Like, we'll go through some stats, and you can just see the balance that he gives. So, he had 13 contested and 13 uncontested possessions. He only had 4 turnovers, playing as an inside mid, where there would have been quite a few dump kicks from clearances. Speaking of clearances, he had 4 centre clearances and 4 stoppage clearances. So again, just doing it all around the ground. 4 inside 50s. It's a shame he didn't kick a goal, because he's kicked a goal in every game. So I think it's just Logan now for the Swans that has managed to kick a goal in every single game. But yeah, just another consistent performance. Obviously, he probably could have kicked a goal, but gave a Joey the Goose handball to Hayward over the top. So
Joey the Goose, can you? I heard this for the first time when we were just setting up for the potty. Explain for the families at home, what is Joey the Goose?
Look, one thing we haven't touched on yet is Hayward has been really good and had a really good time over the last few weeks. But I did mention that as good as he was, a lot of his handballs were Joey the Goose. Sorry, a lot of his goals were Joey the Goose goals.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I can't remember exactly how I phrased it. And Chris
I'm like, what? Hang on. Like, I'm pretty shit at like sayings and stuff. I think that's been well established on his potty, but that was a new one for me. I'd never got close to hearing that one. So I think that stands for like just getting an easy one out of the back, right?
I was like, hang on, have I messed this up? Because I second guessed myself. So I looked it up and no, I was bang on. So for anyone that doesn't know, a Joey the Goose handball is, a goal scored by a player who receives a handball in the goal square and is without an opponent close to them.
I find it weird that they call it Joey the Goose. It's more like Joey the Chad. If you're handballing it to your mate, it's empty in the goal square. That's pretty good, right? Like,
yeah,
everyone's done their job.
Oh yeah, but it's just, I guess it's just like
easy stuff.
Yeah, it's more to reflect the kind of goal scored.
Yeah.
If someone kicks 5, but 5 are handballs in the goal square, then it's probably not as good a 5 as 5 from 50 meters out. On an angle sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. So like Buddy didn't have that many Joey to goal goals. He kind of went out there and got his own goals from like kicking it from inside the center square and random shit like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would have had quite a few.
Oh, he had a few. Yeah.
Over 1,000, probably more than most players in a sense. But, but no, Buddy kicked a lot of crucial goals and probably didn't get a whole lot of handballs in percentage wise. But look, back to Heaney. I think he just he was just very, very he's just kept up his consistency, and I think we had a very even team performance as well. I struggled to pick a top 3 today.
It was really hard. Like we had down like 7 players. Like, to let everyone know at home, we had Heaney, Warner, Hayward, Grundy, Florent, JJ, of course, Blakey. I think everyone most players played a really, really good game. So I think we're touching there. Look, Florent with 2 points. I think Florent was superb playing that halfback role. I know we were talking off air just before we started. We're like, okay, I think this is his best season yet. And we're like, last year was his best season. We're like, I think this season's even better. Just, signed on for a long-term deal, not slowing down, seems to just kind of find himself more and more comfortable every day. I've named him the bass player of the Swans, just in the back, getting the groove down, nailing his parts and just making everyone feel good and getting the groove down. And yeah, I just love the way he's playing. He just seems to be playing with more flair and almost more relaxed at the same time.
Yeah, I think ever since he's gone down back, back in 2022, which he had such a good game. I remember against GWS in round 1 of that year at ANZ Stadium, and he kicked 3 goals from the mids and had 20 odd touches.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
Down back, but I think ever since he's just gotten better and better. In that role.
He's too smooth, man. I love it. And it kind of feels like him and Lloydie have kind of switched positions, where Lloydie's playing a bit more up the ground. Lloydie kicked a goal this week. Let's celebrate Lloydie. It's always great when practically a full-time back goes and kicks a goal. I always love to see it. But it kind of feels like they have swapped positions a little bit. And Florent's kind of taken on more of that, a bit further back, be more of a support player. He's not taking too many kick-ins. They're kind of leaving that to Roberts and Blakey and Rampy. But yeah, Florent just kind of being a support man all over that back end of the ground, just the whole centre ground, basically left to right. Love to see it. All right, Chatty, your boy Chatty, getting the 1 point. Your boy, talk about your boy. What's he up to?
I loved his game. I don't think the stats show it as well. I just thought every time he got the ball, he just turned and ran. My mate Trent, who was a neutral there, was just like, he's just tearing the game up. Every time he gets it, it was just turn, run, bounce, kick inside 50. It was him at his attacking best. Obviously he kicked the 2 goals, but I feel like it was just like that sort of just north of the center circle, where he got the ball in that sort of position in the corridor and could just turn and run and go and get the ball inside 50. So like I thought he had one of those games. Maybe his execution from that was probably not at his optimal. However, it just looks so good when he plays like that. It would be even better if he nailed all his kicks. But yeah, no, he was very good. And look, I think he's been very consistent this year as well.
Yeah, he's been really unlucky to get more votes in the Bob. Honestly, we have not given him. I mean, he's always gotten credit, but he's not quite been either second or third. He's just up there, and he's playing so consistently. But it's just hard to fit him in there every week. But he is. You're right. He is really consistent, and I feel they're putting more time into him this year, so maybe that's why his efficiency has dropped off a little bit. They're not giving him the free rein, but if you're going to sit on him, then Heaney gets out, right? So then soon enough we're going to have Parker rolling through the middle as well. So what are you going to do with this? And you've got Errol running ragged if you're not careful. So yeah, I think he's probably taken a bit of pressure, and he's doing really well with it and playing incredible games. He's learned how's that step of his? I think it just goes like a hard left step. He just slams that left foot down and turns on his. He's just getting every player. It seems to be like the new Dusty palm off is the Chad Warner stomp. I think the rest of the AFL is going to start paying attention soon enough.
Yeah, look, I think they, Damien Barrett's a big fan, so I think he's getting more exposure, time and time again. I think in Damien Barrett's eyes this week, he was one of, I think he got the 1 vote, so he would have thought he was best on ground in that game this week, which is interesting. But Damo's a big fan, like I am, so appreciate the love, Damo, for the chat.
There you go, the Chad lovers right here. Swam and Barrett together, united, all as one. That brings us to
for another podcast.
That's different podcast. It's all good. It's all good.
As a guest,
that'd be awesome. All right, so that brings us to the end of the game. We are coming in first. Coming in first with 152%, 151 point something percent, just about 152%. well ahead of the Cats, who lost against Port in a pretty close one. That Port just kind of almost let them through the door. And they lose Cameron for the next game with concussion. So it's going, yeah. So the Swans are sitting in a great position. Bombers have made their way up to third place with 98%. So that means that they've had more points scored against them than they've scored, and yet they're coming in third. So is this a sustainable model? It's an interesting approach to things, Cotton. Let's see how this works out for him, mate. What do you think about that? How the Swans going, top line, deserving or not?
Firstly, I just want to touch on our percentage. We've got 151 point whatever it is, or 152.
1.8 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
We got that percentage without winning against Richmond, who are clearly a bottom four side.
Great point.
And whilst being down to West Coast at half time and not really kicking away in the second, in the second half, I think we only won by, 20 or 30, which against West Coast, really should have been a bit more, especially with a team that has, lost one game against a team that we really we had an off game. In terms of the Cats, it was good seeing them, but geez, they gave Port a run for their money. They were down by a lot, and they really did come back and push. So that's credit to them for having a crack. But I'm very happy Port got up. The Bombers. Now, I read an article, I think it was sometime last week, about the pretty much I think it's called expected wins, and it's a stat that coaches look at a lot. Bombers were sitting in, I think at that point, it was fifth or sixth, and they were sitting there, but their expected wins, they were 1-7. And so that's taking into account scoring shots and how likely you are to score a goal from certain places. So their efficiency inside 50 must be, and I guess, ability to put enough pressure or, on opponents to not score opportunities, it must just be, or, there'd be a little bit of luck in that. It's just they're doing really well. It's like they're grafting their way, into a finals berth potentially. I know they've got 3 out of the next 4 are pretty winnable. So they're doing well. But I mean, their points against, I think a lot came against us and a lot came against Port, and they've just been getting up on their efficiency rather than I guess the maybe not deservingness, but the domination. They're not dominating games, but they're being very efficient. It sort of just shows how underrated, goal kicking is as a stat and kicking straight. So, good on them. Let's see how we go. My flatmate's a Bombers fan. Shout out to Kayla. So, she'll be happy with that. But,
It's kind of interesting because the points for and against for me, I really care about it for at the end of the year when things get nice and tidy, super close, when everyone's played each other, the half teams twice over, you won 1-1 for the year and you're battling for that top 4. It's when a percentage comes into it is why I really, really care. But 152, that's just obnoxiously high. Given the teams we played against, Collingwood, Melbourne, we're about to play Carlton. Let's see how we go there. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really pumped about it. I think it's really showing our consistency for all the games. I think that's one part about this year is our consistency. We're going to touch on a couple of things here, but I kind of also feel that's why we haven't brought in someone like a Parker. So let's talk about Friday night footy against Carlton. Coming in 7th, just coming off a win by 1 point against the D's at the MCG. Mate, talk to me. This game is going to be absolutely awesome. Couldn't ask for more on a Friday night. Perfect time for it. What is going through your mind, selection-wise? What is going through your head?
Right now, I've got the Friday night footy finger-licking goal king goody song stuck in my head, but look, it is a big game. It's up against my dad's team too, so there'll be a bit of emotion in the household. But yeah, look, it is a massive game, and Carlton have had, they've had a few. I wouldn't even say off weeks. I think they've just had a lot of close games, and some they've got up, some they haven't. From a fan perspective, I was pretty happy that they won the game, but I was kind of even more happy with how they won it. Going in, like, they would be more fired up if they lost the game by a close margin, but they're also, probably not as confident. It's like when we, crawled over the line against Collingwood in that prelim. The next week we went out and got hammered by Geelong, and obviously that's a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
However, I think that you could argue that Melbourne deserved to win that game. They had an extra, I think, five, at least 5 scoring shots that went, not including out on the full. So, I think we're like going in. I think we're in a good position, based on our win and their win. But it is a big game, and they are, their midfield is great. Their key forwards are dangerous and worrying. Jacob Wiedering is a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Their half back line is inundated with injuries, but they're still finding a way. So it will be a very, very, very big game.
It's interesting you say that, because Cripps and Walsh, that is an incredible 1-2 punch. And Pitnet, like that in midfield is superb. And I know we've got some cracking kids ourselves. We've got our Chad, we've got Heaney, we've got Rowie, we've got Grundy. It's all really good, but they also have some absolute animals. And you mentioned Wiedering. I would argue probably the best back in the game right now. I think he's pretty much a brick wall. I don't know how you feel about it.
I hate it that he hasn't got an All-Australian selection ever. Like,
I didn't know that. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm
right.
just,
Well, this is the year.
I'd put a lot of money on it. Like, he may have got into the squad before, but he seems to have like a couple injuries, or he's had half a season that he's played awesome and it's dropped off, and he's got into the squad but hasn't got through. But it's also the role players at Carlton, like Blake Acres, my lookalike. He is just everywhere. Like, he's unheralded really, but he just runs the ground so well. It's sort of like who's Melbourne's winger? Langdon. He reminds me of Langdon, but I feel like he has more of an impact. Like, he just runs and he's back. He's kicking crucial goals. I think you've got Cottrell, and he pops up, at places, and just has things going. You've got Owies. You've got these role players. Even in their mids. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily say role players, but Chera. Kennedy. You've got these players that just kind of stand up in moments. Tom DeConning. I think Brody Kemp, I always like the look of him. They've got a lot of role players that play well alongside the stars.
And let's talk about the backline, our backline, because we're going to be up against 2 absolute animals, Harry Mackay and, of course, Charlie Curnow winning the Coleman. Now, I know we've spoken before off camera or off freaking potty about Francis. Now, I'm going to let you go at it. Go for it. What are we going to do for selection this week? I'll start off with that.
Okay, well, let's just start off with selection for last week. Why did we bring Joel Hamling into the club if we're not going to select him for a game in Perth against his former side that he knows, he would have played on the forwards at training. He would know their game plan better than the Swans coaches. I don't know how he doesn't get in. He's obviously all right because he kicked 4 goals in the VFL. I also don't know why he's playing up forward, but
yeah, who knows?
Anyway, let's move on from that. Francis came in and he was very unconvincing. It wasn't good. Like, come on. I'll try to not be brutal here, but
yeah,
I don't see him being up to it. And look, mate, I hope he comes out and proves me wrong, because given they've got Mackay, Curnow, and DeConning,
we need those tours.
It's likely that he's going to stay in, even though I think that Rampy, Fox, and the Pelican could do a great job as an undersized defence.
Oh, that's the other part of this, isn't it? McCartan isn't coming in for this week. They've already said that he's out for another week. So,
and you know what? Good decision. Let's make sure that he is 100% okay to go. We really don't need to risk him at this stage of the year, and let's just get him 110% right. But it is a strange one. Honestly, I'd love to see Hamling come in. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would like to see it. But yeah, I would love to see the change of Parker coming into the team too. I think it would be good to see him on the inside. I don't think Taylor Adams has had the most prolific start to his career. Not necessarily to say I want to see him out of the team, but I think that we still do have quite a young midfield, and I would still love to see Parker rotating through that, and also up forward and kicking a few snags here and there.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad one for Adams. I think Taylor Adams coming out for Parker, I think would make a lot of sense for us, just in the role that they play. The role that they can play, the style of football that they are, the leadership that they give. They're both well qualified in their own rights. Also, having Taylor Adams have a week off just with the known soft tissues that he's had before, it's not a bad idea to give him a rest just to make sure it doesn't get too binged up.
I was actually meaning though. I wanted Francis out. Sorry if I misworded. I meant I would love to see the change.
Oh yeah. I get that much. Yeah, but
look, I see what you're saying. I think it could be a good idea. Also, not in any way of any hate. I think it could be good for Matty Roberts to have a rest. I think he just hasn't been getting as much of it recently.
I took high offense to this when you said it before we started. But hang on, we talk it through.
I just think that his impact is nowhere near as much as what it was. He's had some injuries. Last year had a big injury. He started the year off fantastic. I think he's cemented his spot in the 22 at this point in the season. However, I just think it could be good. I know there's a bye coming up a couple of weeks, but why not just give him a bit of spell, give Braden a run, or bring Parker in. We got options. And just get him back. Maybe even not to say he's complacent, but maybe if he's got a week off, he's going to come back in. As hungry as he was at the start of the year. Just come back and I guess get those 20 touches. At that really high efficiency, and mostly being kicks.
Yeah.
No hatred towards that decision at all. Unlike maybe another decision I'd like to happen, but I think he could do with a spell.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think I don't think too many people complain about that. I think, it comes with the caveat he has been fantastic. You don't need to go further than me to just give him as much praise as he deserves. But having a week off wouldn't be a terrible idea, I think, and especially when we've got the option of bringing in Parker. Against a team like Carlton, so not bad. Georgie Hewitt, I would argue, will probably go straight over to Heaney. Would be my guess. How do you feel?
He's probably big enough. So it's a great point. I think look, he could go to Heaney and sort of play a run with, but he could also go to Chad as well, because Heaney is just being so dominant that they may think, and Heaney and Cripps could be a really good matchup.
Battle.
And go head to head. I don't know. I think that Hewitt could go to Chad, but let's see what happens. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. It is Mangrook as well. I love this round. It is the best. New Jersey kind of dropped. It is superb. It looks lovely. I think, are you going to pick yourself up? I'm taking a look at the jumper or the scarf. I'm a big fan of the scarf, actually.
Yeah, well, I've seen the jersey, but I haven't actually seen the scarf. I'll have to check it out. But
have a squiz at the scarf, and they got like a t-shirt and jumper to go with it. It's all good.
Our indigenous jerseys, I feel like they're especially the ones with the swan. For me personally, when the swan's on there with that indigenous look, it looks so good.
The black swan.
Yeah, and one thing to touch on as well, like WA, there were swans everywhere. Like, I'm not talking about at the game, just in general, Swan River, Swan Draft. What a beer.
Well, that's where it all started, right? It was actually like they used to bring in recruits from WA over to South Melbourne, and they were Swans, and they were later to Swans, and then the South Melbourne Swans came at the back of that, and yeah, so it is the Swan world over there in WA. Hilariously, the Swans are in Sydney, where I don't think I've ever seen one in the wild.
Yeah, at the end of the trip, I actually went back to this pub that was you could win free. You could win these Swan Lager beanies. I look horrible in a beanie, but I was like, it's red and white as well with a black.
Oh, what? That's awesome.
I have to wear it this week just for the
You gotta.
Yeah, but it was went back. They gave me one without even buying a beer, which was very nice of them. It was a bit of a dodgy pub, but shout out to them. It was awesome. So yeah, it was good seeing Swans everywhere. But the logo looks awesome. It looks awesome.
The jersey was designed by Richard Campbell, who is James Bell's uncle, designed the jersey, so it's a banger. So, yeah, get out there. If you haven't seen it, jump on socials or go over to the Swans shop. It's out there in all its different versions. It's going to be a lovely one. I don't think they've ever made a bad version of it. I think the Indigenous jersey is probably the best ones that they've done. I think they're freaking awesome. All right, one quick one I just want to ask you. It can be a yes or no answer, over to you. But Collingwood supporter at the game on the weekend, softly touched one of the players, the Eagles, took the ball off him and punched it over to the ref. Seemed a bit gentle and pretty chill and seemed a bit relaxed. That fan has now copped 12 months away from the game, so they're missing out on the rest of the season. Fair or no fair? What's your position on it?
I see why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's probably a bit of over policing. Like Australia does. I think we set these rules way too. It's just too full on. Like, I get why they're not encouraging it, but they're making a bit of a scapegoat out of a fan who clearly wasn't meaning any malice in what he did. I wonder if it was the same team, if it would have gone that way. It might
That's
be
a
the
good
look
point.
of a fan, touching a player of the opposition team, or a fan of the home team touching a player of the away team. That could be part of it, because if it was a Collingwood fan, and a Collingwood player, who's to say that they go that far? I think that it's a 6-month ban, so the rest of the season is very, or the rest of this season, the AFLW season, is very harsh. I get why. I do get why it is a hard one. I'm gonna go with, if I think it's fair, I'm gonna go with a no. I would be devastated if that was me, but I probably wouldn't do that as well in saying that.
I think the optics as well, where the guy's got face tattoos all over himself. I kind of feel that there's a bit of optics to go with this as well. I feel at the end of the day, if we're going to take a stand, do not touch players, full stop. Fine. Like, that's the line. And I'm okay with that line. But if a player comes over to you for a high five, you can high five him. But if they're just coming around close to you and decide to give him a kiss on the forehead like this bloke did, yeah, you can't be doing that, I guess.
No, I agree. It's true. And that's what I mean. I see where they're coming from.
Great.
It's just
great.
the amount. It's no, it's not grey. I think what you said is pretty clear. I just think that it feels like they're making a big example out of one fan, and maybe they have to, and I guess for the greater good, maybe that's in their opinion the right decision, and if so, fair enough. But I do feel it is a bit harsh.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, and one last one. The Crows are allegedly throwing 6 years and $800K a year at Hayward. Now, Hayward is in his last year of his contract, free agent, can go wherever he wants. I think he's restricted. I think
He's restricted.
He's restricted. Thank you. What is your take on this? Do you feel dirty at the Crows for what they did with Dawson, or is this just a free market playing free market?
Look, I mean, that money. I mean, if they're willing to pay that, obviously he has been great this year.
Mm.
But if they're willing to pay that, like we can't match that. There's no way. That's getting a player in for no cost in terms of draft pick, and that's why he'd get that much money. I don't think he's had the career to warrant anywhere near that amount of money.
Okay.
In the
Look,
country right now, and he's playing well. He's playing really well, but yeah, I'm expecting him to go, and unpopular opinion, I'm okay with it.
I think with him, he is like such a poster boy of the Swans as well. Like the media team loves him. I mean, his fans love him, and I know he drives fans mad. Just sometimes with his wayward kicking, but he does traditionally kick pretty well, and he does a lot of stuff off the ball. Off the ball that you don't pay attention to. So unless you're at the game as often as we are, and we'll be able to see him directly. So I think, but even then, even with all of that, even with me with a really optimistic light on it, 800,000 a year for 6 years is too much. I kind of feel the pay. So it's going to have to be a home ground discount. I know we'd nicknamed him the Pony for being Horse's pet. Horse loves him. So whether he's going to take an enormous discount in order to stay in Sydney, I'd be surprised. So let's see where that ends up.
I think it will also really depend on how deep we go this year. It's going to, if we win a flag and he's going to Adelaide, who at this stage are looking like they're not going to make finals, does he want to, is he going to be like, I've got a flag now, I'll go? And one game at a time, by the way, one game at a time, speaking very hypothetical. But if we made it that far and were successful or got very close, that might change his opinion and go, you know what, I'm playing this game to win a flag and I'll take a pay cut. And we offered him a short-term deal as well. It wasn't, we've offered him 2 years, I think, because, to give him, so he's not locked in at that pay rate. And if he continues performing how he is, that the next contract can be more.
Yep.
So, we're leaving the door open for that, or I guess, for him to move in another couple of years potentially. So I think it's going to come down to, how this season goes, if we can get there and how close we get there. And I guess if he wants to get back to that point again, whether that's getting close or whether that's, touch wood, winning it. Or if he, sort of sees it as a, I can go without, winning a flag. And who knows, maybe the Crows could bounce. They were awesome last year. And I want to secure my future, so it's going to be a very tough decision.
Now Noddy reckons, and I'm behind this one, but Noddy reckons that he might announce before his 150th game, and I think he's got 2 more games to go. I think he's on 198 or something. How do you feel about that one? Do you reckon that's a possibility?
No, I don't.
You reckon?
So. No.
You reckon that the decision's going to be made close to the end of the year? You reckon?
Yeah. I don't think it's a decision that can be made lightly, especially with how we're going and how the Crows are going. There's also, it's not just the Crows that are interested. Port are interested, Carlton are interested, Melbourne are interested. There's a lot of teams that are there. So I think that he's also playing well. So who's to say he can't play himself into more money? That's
right. All right. Well, it is a business, so. Right, if you're gonna be, if I was offered 6 years and $800,000 to play some football, I would be taking it as well. So I don't feel bad about that. If he manages to do well for himself at the same time, he's been a steward of the Swannies. So let's see where it ends up. But I am backing Noddy's indication that before he's at 146 now, before his 150th, he announces. I'm actually behind Noddy with this one. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening in. If we've lasted to the end, we've obviously done something good. So please go ahead, give us a like, follow us on whatever social of your choice, and reach out to us if you want to have a chat.
Otherwise, make sure to keep an eye out for more content during the week, including our weekly team announcement, as well as a bunch of stuff on game day itself.
And we look forward to seeing you at the SCG, O'Reilly 3, screaming for your fans at Friday Night Football against the Carlton Blues. But until then, up the Bloods and can you Swannies!